The message arrived on a Thursday evening, ordinary in its timing but sharp in its meaning. "Don't show up. You're a disappointment." Stared at the words longer than I should have, letting them settle in the silence of my apartment. The room hummed with the quiet of a life lived alone, not lonely, just deliberate. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Act of not responding felt, in that moment, like the smallest measure of control I had ever claimed. The following days passed with a gentle, almost imperceptible shift. I went to the grocery store without glancing at my phone, poured coffee, paid bills, and walked along familiar streets. Nothing extraordinary happened, but the weight of the text lingered, stone in my pocket, reminding me that I was being measured against an impossible standard. 2 weeks later, the phone buzzed, and again. The notification preview made my stomach tighten. "Can you wire 5,000 for your sister?" The phone down and stared out the window at the gray sky. Memories surfaced unbidden. Dinners where my accomplishments went unnoticed. Conversations where my sister's needs took priority. Each slight reinforced by my father's approving nods for her and indifferent shrugs for me. I felt the old sting, the familiar tug to comply despite everything. I thought about it carefully, recalled the simmering power dynamics that had governed our interactions for decades, the subtle hierarchy where my desires and dignity were negotiable at best. But this time, I let the thought settle like sediment. No action, no concession, no surrender. Then I typed, deliberately slow, every word chosen for its precision. "Disappointments don't do wire transfers." I set the phone down. The buzzing began immediately. Messages, missed calls, insistence. My father's authority, once absolute, trembled in the face of my refusal. There was no shouting, no dramatic confrontation, just the persistent reminder that I would not comply. For the first time, I felt the quiet weight of control settle in my own hands. The consequences were immediate in form, subtle in effect. Every buzz, every ping carried the same message. "I wanted something from you. You refused." But I had wanted nothing from them, not validation, not forgiveness, not participation in their hierarchy of favors. Sat back and let the silence around my decision stretch, long and unbroken. I thought about what had shifted. Not the relationship, not the past, not the repeated history of favoritism and disappointment, but me. I was no longer measured solely by their expectations, existed as my own standard, and that was enough. That quiet recalibration of power felt like victory, though it was uncelebrated, understated, and internal. There was no cathartic outburst, no dramatic reversal. The phone continued to buzz into the evening, ignored it. My sister's need remained unmet for now, my father's control partially disrupted, and my dignity, intact and quietly undeniable, was no longer negotiable. I closed the laptop, made tea, and leaned back in my chair. Outside, the world moved on, indifferent to the small rebellions and careful choices of a life recalibrated. I didn't need them to see it, to praise it, or to understand it. I only needed to recognize it myself. In that quiet, controlled space, I realized the subtle truth. You can't always change others, but you can always define your own boundaries. That boundary, once asserted, carried its own weight, visible to those who would challenge it, invisible to anyone else. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough.